Hello and welcome back to the MLB DFS Slate breakdown for Monday, August 21st. Man, we're already in the end of August. Football is around the corner. But before we get there, what we're going to go over today in the video is we're going to start off by going through the perfect lineups and the winners of both DraftKings and FanDuel, followed by projected ownership for the pitchers and some pitchers to consider, followed by stack ownership and stacks to consider. But before we get into all that, come join us at LineStar. I wanted to let you know of a new affiliate that we do have. It is with Chalkboard. Most people know Chalkboard app as like a Discord for sports betting, but they have now added player props and player pick'ems. So, if you are a new customer to Chalkboard, download the app, deposit $10, use our promo code LineStar, or you can click this little link right here and take you right there. Deposit $10, play in one contest, you get 2 free months of LineStar. Another thing that they are doing, which is very, very cool, is they are doing a deposit match of up to $300. 100% up to $300. So if you put in $300, you get $600 to bet with in your account. It is a great deal. None of these pick'em sites are matching that much money. So definitely try to take advantage of it if you can. Now, let's get into the fun. Let's get into today's slate. And starting with the perfect lineups from yesterday. So, DraftKings perfect lineup, we had Erod putting up 26. We had Ryu putting up 26. We had a 3-man Blue Jays stack, 2-man Yankees stack, got it done. And then some one-offs from there on out. So, the winning lineup, 194 to the Mish, who had Erod and Freed, who Freed had a bad game, but was still did enough to let the Mish get in there here. And the Mish had a 5-man Toronto stack and a 2-man Milwaukee with Devers as the one Boston player. So he got it done. He won by 2.5 points. Nice 5-2-1 lineup construction, as we've seen over and over and over again. 5-2-1 is winning a lot of these contests. So congrats to the Mish. Now, let's get in over to FanDuel and check that out. And FanDuel. All right, we got Erod. We have a 3-man Blue Jays stack, 2-man Boston stack, so slightly different here, and then a one-off with Flores and Canzone and Taylor there. So, nice little lineup there. Didn't take all the salary. 310 was the score, and the winner was Mac Attack with 262. So, still 50 points off the perfect lineup, so there's a lot of extra room there, but really lineup construction is what we're here to talk about. So he had Erod, then he had a 2-man Boston, 3-man Toronto, 2-man Cardinals, and a one-off of Alvarez. So had some correlation there, had a 3-2-2-1, which is interesting. Not many people are doing that, I should say. And it was enough for Mac Attack to take it home. And so congrats to him. Now let's get into today's slate. Get over to DraftKings. We'll move myself out of the way a little bit and pull up the projected ownership. So, as I had stated, it was an 8-game slate, but we do have one postponement. So, with that, this ownership will change a little bit. It's not going to be super drastic because the guys that got postponed, pitching-wise, weren't getting much ownership as it was. So, highest owned, we got Paul Blackburn, 7K with Oakland. He is versus the Royals, 44% owned. I did not expect a 44% owned Paul Blackburn, but here we are. It is late season MLB DFS. Some weird things are starting to happen with baseball, and it's just starting to get a little harder to predict here. Now, Blackburn's been great lately. 3.15 FIP, almost 24% K rate, working deep into games, averaging 19 points a game for fantasy points. He's been good versus the Royals, who are meh, but they do hit righties well. And, this is a spot where you could absolutely go a KC stack and get some leverage. Now, I do understand why everybody's going to Blackburn. Looks like he's in a great spot. The value solid for his projection, for his price, almost 21% combined K rate. The one thing is he is averaging less points at home. However, I do have to walk you through this. I do think that is partially just on who he has played at home versus away. At home, Atlanta, Tampa Bay, New York, White Sox, Boston, Houston. Away, Washington, Seattle, Boston, Cleveland, Milwaukee, and the Marlins. So the teams he has played away versus home are a big difference here. So I probably wouldn't be thinking too much of that fantasy points at home. He's at Oakland. It is a pitcher-friendly park. I don't believe that he's just worse at home. I don't, maybe there's something with his head there, but I think it's just too small of a sample size. So I wouldn't really consider that as a factor. However, what I would consider is, a FIP before, ERA of 5 over the last 20 starts. StatCast data is just okay. He's getting a ton of ownership. The Royals been hitting decently lately. I think you can play either side of this, and if he's this high owned, it's not a bad idea to leverage with some Royal stacks. And, if you're building 150, you can still have some Blackburn, and you can have Royal stack. Just play both sides. All right, Luis Castillo is the next highest owned. We had a 2K value, 10.3K for his salary here. And Castillo's just been great, the whole season. And now he has a decent matchup here versus the White Sox. He is, however, averaging 35% less fantasy points away. Now, there's something that's been happening all season long with him. And I don't love chasing ownership here, but pitching's just kind of weak today. So, it might be a spot where we want to chase. Now, his StatCast data has been a little sketchy. A lot of fly balls, a lot of hard contact. So I don't love it in that aspect, but he does have a solid K rate, 26%. The combined K rate, 24.5. He's been very good all year. White Sox lineup is meh. I don't mind going there. Kristen Javier, man, this guy has had the most disappointing season, and I have a real hard time getting behind him, even at 7.1K at this point. This guy was an absolute stud last year, but his K rate has just fallen through the floor, down to 22% over the last 20 games, 20% over the last 5. The combined K rate is 20%. Now, he has been a lot better at home, but look, this Boston lineup is very good versus righties. He's letting a lot of people on base, 5.1 or 5.2 walks per 9, a lot of fly balls, a lot of hard contact. With all of that and him allowing all these guys on base, I have a real hard time going to Javier, even at 7.1K. But he is likely one of your better pivots off Blackburn for the cheap price. Next, we got James Paxton versus the Astros. Now, I think he may struggle a little bit here. He's averaging 20% less fantasy points when he's away. Houston Astros been very good lately, especially versus lefties. I think he's in a tough spot here. So StatCast data is not great, allowing bottom 10% and barrel balls over the past 30 days. Mid 4s FIP. There's a lot of stuff going against him in this matchup, and he hasn't been great versus the Astros in the past. Michael Wacha. Waka. Now, Waka's been really good this year. I don't mind going to Waka. The one thing with him is he's 10K, and it's 19.5% combined K rate. That is way too low for his price. Now, with how bad this slate has been for pitching, I see going here a little bit. I don't love it, though. I just don't think there's a ton of upside here. The one thing is that, Miami is decent versus righties. They're not great. They're not bad. They don't hit a ton of home runs, but they do hit some. He's allowing 31% hard contact, 54% fly balls. It is at least in pitcher-friendly Petco, so it should limit some of those home runs. You know, I think he's just kind of pricey for who he is and his upside with 1.9x. Alan Winans. Now, I don't mind Winans here. He was absolutely excellent last time he played the Mets. One thing we do have to say is it's very nice hitter weather here. Low 90s in Atlanta. Winds are blowing out a lot. There's going to be some hits in this game. Now, Winans is cheap. Has shown some real big upside. But he's facing the Mets once again. So second time, within a week and a half, which you never really love to see, especially when the Mets are actually good versus righties. 3.3 WOBA, 2.15 ISO. I don't love the spot for Winans, but at his price, the combined K rate at 25.6%, I think he's interesting, and he's a nice little pivot off some of the higher owned guys. So you could do there. Giolito, unfortunately, he's out. Blake Snell, I don't believe is pitching. It should be Waka. Alec Marsh versus Oakland. He's likely going to be the bulk relief again, which he's been okay in that spot. Doesn't offer a ton of upside, but at 5,800 with how bad pitching is today, and getting a guy who could go, say, 5 innings versus the A's at low ownership is at least interesting. Touki Toussaint going against the Mariners. Mariners strike out a lot, but they've been hot lately, and Toussaint is just not that great of a pitcher at this point of his career. He's in the last 3, he's allowed at least 3 runs, 4 in 2 of them. So his very successful start of the season is coming to an end, and everybody's starting to get to him. Peterson versus Atlanta. Don't love it. Atlanta's offense is great, and it's nice hitting weather. Slade Ciccione has been scratched, so we are now awaiting to see who is the starter for Arizona. Graham Ashcroft won't be there. Tucker is just an opener. And Texas, Jordan Montgomery. Look, he's in, no worse of a spot off than, say, Waka, similar priced. But Arizona is bad versus lefties. So I don't mind going here. But once again, you're in a spot where its combined K rate is super low. Just not that much upside versus on offense, it's okay. They've been bad versus lefties, but they have some guys that can hit. And Ryan Weathers has been terrible since he's been in the MLB. All right, let's check out FanDuel ownership real quick since we walked through literally everybody. All right, so Blackburn, 34%. Castillo, 26%. Winans, 15%. At 6,500, Winans is very interesting here. 11% for Giolito. Obviously, that is going to change once everything updates here. And Waka, 7%. The pivots here, we have Paxton is there, Ryan Weathers is there, Marsh. Alec Marsh is there. Issue with Marsh is that he can't get you the quality start on FanDuel, which will hurt big time. It hurts his upside a lot, especially because he's not a huge strikeout per 9 guy. So I don't love Marsh here on FanDuel. But yeah, pitching's limited. You may have to go to Blackburn, Castillo, or Winans. Waka you could go to, but once again, you're in that spot where you're limited on upside. However, if he gets the quality start, he gets the win, that's a big bonus, and Padres are favored. So I don't mind that spot. I like him a little bit more on FanDuel than I do on DraftKings. All right, let's get into some pitching or some stacks here. We rambled too much about pitching today. All right, here we go. All right, so our highest owned stack for today is the Cardinals. Cardinals are going against Pittsburgh, who the pitcher is not known yet. But we got decent hitting weather in Pittsburgh. It is warm. The winds are blowing out a little bit. Not as warm as Atlanta, but, it's a decent spot here. And that Pittsburgh bullpen you can beat up on, and we will see who that pitcher is in a little bit. But I don't mind going to the Cardinals. Some other ones, we got some Braves popping up here. As I mentioned, it's hot, wind blowing out. I like the Braves today, especially because there are some cheap pitchers we can get to, so it'll be a little easier to pay up for that stack today. Pittsburgh's in the same spot as St. Louis. Not sure who's gonna be pitching there. Don't mind Pittsburgh. Their bullpen isn't that good, and Pittsburgh does have some guys that can have some power, have some steals. Padres likely facing Ryan Weathers. Absolutely love the Padres stack versus Ryan Weathers. All right, our projected favorites are the Braves. As we mentioned, Braves are in a great spot. Texas Rangers are also in a great spot. Nice hitting ballpark in Arizona. And Slade has been scratched, so there is a possible bullpen game in Arizona, which bodes well for the Rangers. Houston versus Paxton, very low owned. Paxton hasn't been great lately. I don't mind going there whatsoever. And the Mariners. Mariners versus Tukey. Mariners have been hitting the ball really well, and Tukey Desant has not been very good. Mid-5 SPIP over his last 5. He can definitely give it up, and the Mariners can definitely take advantage, especially lately with how hot J-Rod has been. All right, we talked about KC a little bit earlier versus Blackburn. I don't mind that stack whatsoever. Really nice leverage with Blackburn being so high owned. Now, Blackburn's been good, and last year he was good, but he's been a little bit shaky this year. He's had some inconsistent games, and if he is one of those down games at low ownership with all that leverage, the Royals make a lot of sense. White Sox versus Castillo, another little leverage spot, not quite as much as Blackburn, though. Don't mind it with Castillo being not as good on the road. All it takes is a couple home runs if you have a small stack for that to pay off. Right, now let's check the ceiling, guys. As actually we did earlier, Braves, Mariners, all over it. Both of them make a lot of sense to me, as we've already talked about. So that'll be it for today, guys. It looks like a pretty fun 7-game slate. A lot of different ways you can go. Pitching is going to be very tricky today. Do not, don't be scared to get different on this slate, because there is going to be a lot of volatility, a lot of different ways we can go. So get a little different, get a little weird, and then hopefully we see you on the leaderboard. All right, guys, have a good one. Be back tomorrow. Adios.